The seven, this is also a fear type, and but sevens probably look the least afraid, because the strategy is to charm and disarm. So if I feel a little bit afraid, okay, then I can make you like me, and I can kind of talk to you, and it's not like a 2 where there's this kind of seductive quality. It's more just interesting, a synthesis of information, and perhaps compliment you, throw off a little joke here and a joke there, and the next thing you know, you can have it. This is kind of the eternal child, the eterna puella. You kind of got them eating out of your hand, kind of thing. And so it's also a narcissist on the Enneagram, because the 7 needs to be positively mirrored. So what you'll find with 7s is this kind of dichotomy of inferiority, superiority. And that was the part that just knocked me to my knees when I read it. It was, Helen uses the narrative tradition, and in her Enneagram book, there's somebody who describes, I walk in and I'm working with somebody, or I'm talking with somebody, and all of a sudden they start looking pedestrian to me, and like they really don't know what they're talking about.
Right.
And how could somebody who was so interesting and so smart a moment ago now be so boring?
It's like the Eagles song, "New Kid in Town." It's like, as long as you're the new kid in town, you're cool, but
Yes.
you're no longer interesting. Oh, there's a new kid in town.
Yes, and people who are in relationship with 7s will describe, here we were connected, and you're fascinated, and you're so interesting. It can feel really, really left.
Because you are.
Yes.
See ya. Right. And also, one of the strategies that seems to be, at least as I understand it, is that there's a core, something happened in childhood. Obviously, something always happened in childhood, but there's this core strategy, or the strategy is to avoid this core wound. And so it's all life lived on the surface.
Yes.
And because of that, that avoidance of depth, drugs are great, and there's a real, along with 4, there's addiction in all the points, of course, but 7s are really prone to become addicts, to avoid that. And of course,
Yes.
the way out for the 7 is into the depths.
Is into the depths.
Yes.
And what's interesting about 7s and addiction, David Daniels, we're talking about this, because we were talking about addictions on the panel, and how 7s can sometimes, whether it be cocaine to just more, or alcohol to soften the anxiety, because a lot of 7s will know they're anxious, because we are an anxious type. There's a lot of 7s I know, including me, who are not addicts because of the pain of a hangover.
Yeah, that's a great argument.
So if the construct is built on the avoidance, if the construct is built on the avoidance of pain, a hangover is painful as hell. So I hate hangovers.
Yeah.
And so there's going to be a management of alcohol, so that you don't have to feel that bad. Or you'll find a drug perhaps that doesn't, cause the hangover the next day.
Well, the 4 would go, fuck it, just,
Yeah. Yeah. So the way the mind is for the 7s, it would be the monkey mind, planning, interesting here, interesting here, interesting there. There's so many books that can synthesize all this information. These are the great synthesizers of the Enneagram, because they have this ability to hold vast quantities of information and be able to just synthesize it into, so they could take, spirituality and ecology and, something in science and then gymnastics, and synthesize it into a teaching. And honestly, I don't know any 7s who you couldn't take something where they'd be able to synthesize.
That's Sean Hargan's right there.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. You know who else? And there's a childlike quality in 7s that you often notice. Steven Spielberg movies. Just wonderful synthesizer. And look at Schindler's List. Talk about a movie of developing the capacity to hold pain. A movement for a 7. A lot of times it's a movement to depth.
Yeah.
And being able to stay with one thing in one time. So the holy idea for a 7 is called holy work. The virtue of 7 is constancy, sobriety or constancy, being able to stay with one thing at a time. So
And once a 7 has achieved that, God, they're wonderful to be around. I mean, they have this capacity to kind of light up and make you appreciate life and all its wonder and beauty.
Well, there's an ecstatic, childlike wonder. You just walk outside and you just could just weep. It's just this wonder for the world, and it's like the child coming in it's spring, you know, and you see that. So the avoidance is pain. The avoidance is pain and boredom. And so the whole construct is built, because if I stay with one thing for a long time, you're gonna hit the boring spots. So sometimes sevens, that's how I knew I was a 7 and not a 3, because the 3s will move to the top of the ladder because they've got the task and goal. The 7 starts to move, and that was boring. There's something else over here. So did you have a question?
Yeah, I wonder if they actually feel physical pain, like if they're more sensitive to it or something. I don't know, I wondered that some, because my partner's a 7.
Well,
And sometimes where, you know, I would persist or, you know, so what, you have a little, whatever, a little pain, you know. But I just wonder, like, maybe, are they more sensitive?
So the talk style of a 7 is storytelling, so I'll tell you 2 stories. The first one is, when I was in labor with my first child, the first labor pain, I said to my husband, I'm ready for the epidural. I didn't know the Enneagram, I knew none of this. The second story is there's this superior quality that you can imagine yourself succeeding and imagine yourself doing well. And I was in Costa Rica with my family, and we were going to do one of those, you know, canopy tours, you know, where you're going from canopy to canopy. And there was a 3-story up rope bridge. And my daughter, the 9, and my son, the 6, went on the bridge, and I was a little judgmental of them, how they were so scared. And they started climbing the tree, and again, just climb the tree. And when I started to do it myself, I froze on the bridge. I couldn't even cross the bridge. And what moved me was there was not one, but with my husband and 3 of my kids and this Costa Rican guide, not one of them was judgmental. Not one of them was, come on, Leslie, just do it. It was just supportive, coaching, kindness. There was 2 9s, a 2, and a 6. And I saw so quickly what narcissism looks like, what superiority looks like, and how just that avoidance of pain and feeling, and the damage that can do to other people. So you can really, yes, that's exactly what happens, is there's a really low, for a lot of us, there's a low capacity for pain. And the judgment, if you'll see the 7s connected to 1, there's some judgment there. So the addiction can also come about too, because when my grand fantasies of all that I would be don't come true, because I wasn't willing to hold the line during the really hard parts, there's a face-to-face with my own kind of deficits. That I'm really not as grand as I had inflated myself to be.
And so the level of integration for 7 is 1. So what strength does a 7 draw from
5.
1? Oh, it's 5.
For the 1, it's exactly what I did on the bridge. It's
the judgmental,
judgmental, it's controlling. It's like I had all of these ideas and all of this, and when the reality sets in, so I get very stressed because I make so many plans. Perhaps I'm writing a paper, it's a 30-page paper, and because I just knew it would be great, I've put it off to the last week. And then people come in and interrupt me, and I'm rude, and I'm, you know, just it's that's what it looks like. And so the 5, it's a movement towards being able to stay with one thing. And then the deeper movement is towards 4, which is really being able to feel the pain of the world. And that's what you'll notice a lot with 7s. I see a lot of 7s in hospice, and a lot of 7s doing work down in El Salvador. My daughter down there said it's loaded with 7s.
Wow.
Being able to hold a space of pain.
That's a very evolved 7 strategy.
Because you also believe that people will be, you believe in the wonder of the person.
Right.
Which my son, the 6, tells me I'm fucking nuts.